fall is in the air, and with fall comes football. So I thought I should come down here and check out the Vikings Museum, located in Eagan, Minnesota. So here's the front of the building entrance. It's also where their training facility is on the back side of this building. Before we get started, I'd like everybody to hit that subscribe button down below and hit that bell icon so you'll be notified when we post new content. But let's go check out the museum. So when you walk in, the first thing they have here is the Ring of Honor. And so these are inductees into the Ring of Honor from the Minnesota Vikings. They get a purple jacket when they get into there, and they get one of these rings. You can see it really well there. I was just talking to one of the people who works here, and he was telling me that Jared Allen, who just got in this year, he was the 2022 inductee, so his name was just added to the list. But it starts with Fran Tarkington, Alan Page, there's Bud Grant from 1998. I'm sure we'll learn a lot more about Bud Grant in here. He's a very well-known Minnesota Vikings and part of their organization. There's Chris Carter. Some names I recognize anyways. Very cool. And that's a jacket they get. The jerseys in the center here are all the jerseys that have been retired. And there's only 6 of them in here. And it says only 6 numbers have been retired by the Minnesota Vikings since the inaugural season. Got a little bit of information about each of them. This is number 70. Marshall. Number 10. 53. 88. 77 and 80. These are the Vikings that have been inducted to the Pro Football Hall of Fame on both sides here. And so they've each got their handprint on a football. And if you touch the handprint, it tells you who he was. He was in 3 consecutive Pro Bowls. He helped the Seattle Seahawks go to the Super Bowl. He's a guard, it looks like. So to learn the story to each of them, you can touch the football. This is Randy Moss. So that's pretty cool. As you touch them, they tell you their story. So this section is called The Founding of the Franchise. It says, explore the franchise story of early football in Minnesota and the founding of the Minnesota Vikings, who began to play in 1961. Here's the founder of it. Max Winter first worked to found the Minnesota NFL expansion team in the mid-1950s. But it wasn't until January 1960 that his efforts came to fruition. Looks like they voted to approve the Minnesota franchise in January 1960, and they began to play in 1961 after Minnesota opted to withdraw a possible 1960 franchise with the AFL. Here's their first schedule. Played the Chicago Bears, Dallas Cowboys, San Francisco, Green Bay, Baltimore Colts, Detroit Lions, Los Angeles Rams, Those are all home games, and then they played road games of the Dallas Cowboys, Baltimore, Green Bay, Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Detroit, and then the Chicago Bears on December 17th. This section's called the History of the Gear. Here you can learn about the history of the Vikings uniforms and how they evolved over time. So this is kind of what they looked like in 1961. It's the pants. It kind of looks like the pants you'd wear in high school football. And then down here is an example of the helmets. And then here's kind of how the gear looked in 1973. It says a mesh material was introduced in 1973 with the intent of keeping the players cooler. The little yellow trim of the numbers was removed. So there was yellow in there. The jerseys didn't allow striping to be weaved into the sleeves, so the jerseys were solid purple. Stripes eventually were screen printed into the mesh jerseys. So it went from pretty plain looking there, I think, to looking a little more fancy here. 2006. They said they made the most dramatic changes then. They added some vertical stripes that continued to the shoulders, and the pants featured a vertical horn shape to them. And this one says the Vikings debuted an all-purple color rush uniform for their 2016 game against the Dallas Cowboys on Thursday Night Football. Some of the current players on the team, I don't know, I kind of like the 2006 version over there. This is what they're currently wearing, it sounds like. This section is called The Seasons at First. The inaugural first season featured a series of memorable firsts, beginning with a shocking upset victory and culminating with 2 Pro Bowlers, it says. So this is Tommy Madison. Here's this card. Here's the first roster they had. 1961 roster. It's got Don Joyce, Jim Marshall, Dave Middleton. And here's a football. 1961 autographed football. This football was signed by each member of the original 1961 Minnesota team. Here's some ticket stubs from some of the original games. They played the Green Bay Packers and the Dallas Cowboys and the Bears. $5 for a ticket back then. It's another view of the cart car over here. So this section is called the Decade of Dominance. It says after their first decade was coming to a close, they were turning into a formidable flow. They, from 68 to 77, it says they went 104 to 35 in one tie. So they won 104 games and only lost 35 games. Looks like it started out here in 1969 when they were the NFC champions, and they went to the Super Bowl and played against the Chiefs. Looks like there's the championship ring back then. It's got a little interactive display here where you can press the buttons and it tells you a little bit more about them. Let's see what it says for 1969.
And their fire-breathing quarterback. There was to be one more magic day against Cleveland in the NFL championship game. After the first 7 minutes, the Vikings were being acclaimed as the new NFL champions. It was a magic day that belonged, most of all, to 40 men, competing as one.
And the next time here is in 1973. They were the NFC champions, and they went to the Super Bowl and played against the Dolphins in Houston. The price of a ticket back then was $7. $12 to go to the NFC for the NFC championship game. And here's in 1974. They won the NFC championship again, and they went to the Super Bowl and played the Steelers. Ticket to the Super Bowl was $20. And then this is in 1976. They won the NFC championship again. Went to the Super Bowl, played the Raiders. That's crazy, the prices of tickets back then. And then this section here is called Dominant Seasons, discovering artifacts from some of the Minnesota Vikings' most prominent seasons. So this is from '09. It's one of the footballs when Brett Favre joined the team, coming over from the Green Bay Packers. Brett Favre provided a magical finishing against the 49ers by finding Greg Lewis in the end zone for a 32-yard touchdown with 2 seconds remaining. And then here this says it has watch the best plays in the Vikings history. Touch to start. Oh, you can pick the play you want to watch. So this is Favre to Greg Lewis. This is what that football over there. So this football here is the football that was in that play. So that's the football that goes to that. Let's actually watch the play.
12 seconds to go in the game. Niners lead by 4. Favre back to pass, pumps to the left. 8 seconds left. He gets away from the pressure. Fires to the end zone. It's Lewis! It's Greg Lewis! Touchdown! Oh my goodness! Greg Lewis! Welcome to Minnesota! Oh my heavens! Greg Lewis!
This is a Moss pass to Carter when they're playing the Giants. So Randy Moss gets the ball. Throws it to Chris Carter for a touchdown. That's cool. Wide receiver to wide receiver. And then here's those 2 wide receivers. There's Randy Moss here and Chris Carter there. So this section here is called Bud Grant. And it says that here you can see artifacts from the life of the Vikings legend Bud Grant and learn about his journey to becoming the Vikings' most reverent head coach. So he was the head coach during all those dominant seasons that I talked about earlier. All the coaches of the team, starting with Norm Van Brocklin from 1961 to 66. Then you had Bud Grant from 67 to 83. He came back from one more year in 85. This was Les Steckler. He was a coach only in 1984 for 1 year. Then you had Jerry Burns. And you had Dennis Green from 92 to 2001. Mike Tice from 2001 to 2005. Brad Childress from 2006 to 2010. Leslie Frazier from 2010 to 2013. And you had Mike Zimmerman from 2014 to 2021. And then you have Kevin O'Connell, who's the current coach, hired this year. Here it says, congratulations, you just won the big game. Celebrate your best pose in front of the Gatorade splash wall and post your videos or photos using Viking Splash or Sweepstakes. You could win tickets to a VIP party at the Minnesota Vikings Museum and other great prizes. It's the Gatorade Splash. Oh no, I'm gonna get wet. I want to thank everybody for watching. Be sure to hit that like button, give me some comments, and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'd really love to have you, and we'll see you guys next time.